Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors coming to you with a rebound relationship series titled Understanding Relationship Failure 10 Reasons. This is going to be a collective lecture, and it is divided into multiple videos. So, you will need to listen to the first part, the second, the third, and so on. So, understanding relationship failure is important because if you don't take the time to self assess what went wrong with the relationship, you are doomed to repeat the same types of mistakes. Understanding relationship failure also points to the fact that most relationships fail oftentimes with our contribution, but it could also be that you just really chose the wrong person, or the person was just not ready to be in relationship, or the person could have chosen you as maybe a fallback plan until they were able to marry someone else. So I want you to take some time to listen to the full series. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I will respond. Also, take some time to hit the subscription button and then hit the notification bell if you are interested in further videos. Thank you for visiting the channel. So this lecture is subject to fair use. So I will be commenting, criticizing, teaching, and pursuing scholarship using this lecture. So reason number one is hastiness, a zeal that kills. I explore hastiness in the first book and in the subsequent books as well, and you will see and hear throughout this series that I talk about my hastiness, I talk about my zeal, and it's important to sort of check your zeal, because oftentimes you would think something is a good idea, a project, a person, advancing in your career is a good idea, but if you are not willing to become a student of the thing that you are interested in, a lot of times you may be creating a setback for yourself. So reason number one, hastiness, a zeal that kills, begins the very first reason why they may marry someone else. One way that we often get into relationships is through the door of hastiness. We don't wait. We like to, we want that sort of immediate gratification. And so one example of a reflection of hastiness is jumping into a relationship before you are ready. You know, we don't have a lot of habit or time or a record of knowing when we are ready for something. However, I do think there is something on the inside of us that tells us that that there is a time that we should do something, enter something, complete something. And I think a lot of times if we would listen to that voice that is, you know, kind of anxious about whether or not we should enter a relationship, I think it would serve us well to do so. There is a time in your life that jumping into a relationship before you are ready is evident. Maybe through the voice of others, you know, maybe you are already taking on something that is already demanding and stressful. And so to enter a relationship might sort of hinder your progress. It's you know, subjective. It's relative. You have to know yourself to know if you are ready or not ready. But I do believe that there are times in our lives that we enter something before the time. Having sex also before you are ready. I understand that people have the right to do whatever they want to do with their bodies, but even adults can have sex before they are ready. even adults. I mean, sure, we can always make the case that a young adult or adolescent, young adult, it is too early for them to have sex, right? Because they don't really know a whole lot of things about sex. They just know that their body feels what it feels. But even an adult at 20, 30, 40 years old, even if they have already had sex in their past, that in a new relationship, it still may be too early for them to have sex. And so, again, that's relative, that's subjective, it's up to you. But if you know what your own standards are, and you don't want to go against those standards, then you need to keep to those standards. And those standards could be have sex after 2 or 3 days. I don't know. It's up to you. But you can also still have sex before you're ready, assuming that the encounter is a relationship. So a lot of times I hear some other YouTubers say that women get it wrong. Sometimes they think that they are in relationship with guys, but oftentimes what the guy and the girl are doing is reflective of a situationship, not necessarily a relationship. Sometimes girls will often begin planning from the very beginning if we like a guy, and it's just an encounter. It's just a date. It's not a relationship. We see too far into the future when there is really no consensus. So oftentimes we will dictate the rules of the relationship before there is actual consensus. And I think our childhood has a big part in it. We like someone on the playground. We take the little boy by his hand and say to him, "You're going to be my little boyfriend or my friend." And the little boy hasn't said anything at all. And so we move all of those types of experiences and belief systems into adulthood, where the young boy who is now a man can make his own decisions. And so we don't want the person to make their own decisions. We want the person to adopt our decisions. So there is no consensus. Putting money on any problem that presents itself, which is actually reflected in, giving too much too early. And this is probably the most important bullet point here on this slide, is that we all on any and every level, on any and under any category, give too much too early. We haven't really assessed the situation. We don't know the person, and we think that whatever that person is going through, that the money that we give them is going to solve the problem, not understanding that men often take offense to you giving money. I'm not saying that they won't take the money, but they know that when you give the money, you control the relationship. And with men, it doesn't even have to be a passive aggressive stance. They would just let you do whatever you want to do. If you're going to do that, if you're going to buy them clothes, if you're going to, give them money, okay, sure, no problem. But you're not going to be necessarily marriage material, because to them you are too aggressive, you are too controlling, you appear to be, or you give off this air of desperation. And so it's important to understand that we can give too much too early. If you have a person who is struggling with their rent, you need to listen first, because the worst thing you want to do is give them money and then you see them the next day and they have a new outfit, they have a new hairdo, they have some new Jordan shoes, and you say to yourself, well, I thought you needed help, that's why I gave you the money. If you were just going to take the money and go do something else with it, like buy clothes, I would not have given you the money. It's not that person's fault, it's your fault. It's my fault. I did exactly the same thing. I volunteered my time too early in relationships. So it would be better, as soon as they say they need something, to shut up. Don't say anything. Let them talk. You will hear truly if they need something. Acting more masculine because of an assumption that you must take over the relationship for whatever reason. Men tend to frown upon masculine women. Oftentimes, however, they don't understand that women who come from a single parent home where the mother is the parent and there's an absent father, they don't understand that there's a root to them being masculine in their current relationship. They saw a mother struggling, working, having to serve as both mother and father, stressed out, aggressive in certain situations, and then they take their childhood upbringing and exposure and they take it into these adult relationships, and they are being masculine, they're being almost manipulative, aggressive, a little, selfish, etc. And so there's a root issue with that. I don't think women just walk around wanting to be masculine. I don't think any woman just wants to take over the relationship, understanding that there's a lot of pressure and a lot of weight to bear, but they have felt like in their past relationships and also through their upbringing that they could not depend upon anyone. And so the best way to make sure that they get whatever they get for themselves is to do it for themselves. They're not trying to be offensive. A lot of times it's the upbringing. Talking about past relationships and hoping the potential relationship will solve past problems. So it's a lot of times you have to think to yourself, is that relationship that they are talking about actually in the past? Because if you're talking about certain issues, they may be actually current issues, and that person hasn't resolved those current issues. Because people oftentimes will say, I'm not with my ex, we're not together. I hear that all of the time. But what they are not saying is that they are actually broken up. I split from my ex. I broke up with him. They need to use those words for me today, because people can fool you. You would actually think they are not with that person, and they are still calling that person, hanging out, having sex with that person. And here it is, you think you are there to help them or whatever, and all you are serving as a rebound for them. So talking about past relationships, I would take that as honestly that they are currently still tied to that person in some kind of way, and they have not addressed it. And you coming into their lives is really not going to help them to address a problem that they need to solve on their own. And then saying I love you too early in the encounter. So we do that. All of us do that on some level, men and women, girl and boy. But you have to resist that temptation to say I love you too early, not out of gain, but out of clarity, because it's something about a man saying it over a woman saying it. And when you have a man who says it, they don't say it unless they truly mean it. If you say it first and then you expect them to say it back, they will say it. But if they are talking from their heart and from their soul, and they say I love you, rest assured that it is more likely that they are telling the truth in that matter. So oftentimes people enter relationships for coping reasons. So that person who is talking about a past relationship will enter a relationship with you to cope, right? So it is much easier to enter a relationship than to deal with emotions, issues, and or recent failures. No one likes to lose. The fact that a relationship is not current and is past means on some level the person believes that they failed. So to distract themselves from that failure, they will enter another relationship. So there's a part in my book that I talk about how it is hard to deal with emotions. So dealing with emotions is difficult because you cannot physically take them out of your pocket and work on them. You cannot take a screwdriver and screw your emotions back and right. You cannot take a hammer and hammer out the bad feelings for the good ones. You cannot take a glue gun and glue your emotions back together. You know how sometimes you have this itch on your back? There are some itches you can get to and scratch, and then there are some itches that you wish you can take your back off and just go to town scratching it, right? Well, there are certain emotions that you can sort of, get to and resolve, make peace with, and let go. And then there are certain emotions that it's just hard to get to it. It's hard to understand it. It's hard to pull at it. It's hard to try to resolve it. And what that essentially means is that those emotions require a process. You're not going to be able to solve them as quickly as you could other types of emotions that really you don't really truly feel too much about. Certain emotions, certain pains, certain hurts, someone mistreating you, taking advantage of you, you finding out that you were a rebound all this time. Those types of emotions will likely require you to enter a grieving process, and grieving processes take a lot longer than anything else that might require you to move from sad to happy, right? So it is much easier to, or you wish it was much easier to screw your emotions back and right, or hammer out those, bad feelings, or glue your emotions back together. So instead of dealing with pain and stress, people often run into a relationship hoping for some resolution to their external problems. And it is an external problem that you have to solve internally, however. So a coping mechanism is one in which a person employs a person or a thing to resolve a difficulty or to manage internal and external demands. Internal and external demands are challenges to psychological resources. Psychological resources are people you use for encouragement and other types of emotional support. So this is what people do instead of solving the actual problem, and the actual problem is always you. I know we like to take that finger of ours and wave it in other people's faces and point and say it's those people. No, the problem is always you. You are always your own problem because you are always 100% responsible for you. So what people often do when they are sad or hurt or brokenhearted, they take that arm of theirs and that hand of theirs and they grab at something. They grab at a person, they grab at a thing, they grab just anything that they feel will comfort them, that they can use as a coping mechanism. So I had a friend in college. She was always saying to me how she felt like she was not going to graduate. And she was saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pass and graduate. And so I am an encourager. So I would say to her, well, you are in your junior year right now. So just, stick it out, stay with it. And then you move to your senior and you'll graduate. And so she would say, oh, okay, thank you so very much. I feel good. I appreciate that. Then she came back around a month after that with the same kind of story. I would do my encouragement spiel. She would say, oh, okay, good. All right. Thank you so very much. Then she would come back around again 1 month later, and she did, and we did that cycle again. And then I realized that she wasn't receiving anything I said. She just liked me to feed her. She liked that I fed her encouragement. So it was one of those little pickup moments, like a little shot of coffee or something like that. So I stopped encouraging her. She came around that last time and she wanted me to encourage her, and I didn't say anything. I talked about, something else, because sometimes you have to stand up for yourself a lot of times when it comes to you realizing that people are just using you. They don't want to hang out with you or anything like that. They just want to use you for your gifts and talents, or use you as psychological resources, right? So be careful then of people who sort of pull at you at certain times in their lives, but don't receive any instruction from you in other areas of their life, especially when that instruction is needed for them to advance forward. So I'm going to talk about in the next few slides about men and gender socialization. So the men who are listening to this particular audio might not like what I am going to say about it. However, it is the psychology research, so don't get mad at me. So according to the researchers, men tend to experience greater emotional distress in the aftermath of a breakup than would females. This happens because men are socialized not to deal with their emotions, unlike women who are provided emotional and psychological support. So anytime you see a woman talking about a particular issue, her boyfriend, her job, her family situation, her mother, she can get on the phone, you get on that phone line, call up all her friends. They will all be on three-way or something, and they will talk the situation like no other. They will cry and talk and criticize, or she can get into the car, drive to her friend's house, and call on her sister circle, and they will cook, bake, drink coffee, drink wine, and she will get all of the emotional and psychological support. That's not the same for men. And with women, it can be anything. It can be truly anything. But with men, they might, their response might be to talk about surface issues with their crew. So the surface issues, man, I got my girl at the house, my old lady at the house, she always complaining about something. Okay, that's a surface issue. Okay, you're not getting into real specifics. You get into the same general ideas that you hear all men talk about, right? However, he would never go to his crew about his woman cheating on him, or his woman deciding to call her ex, or his woman struggling with alcohol or something like that. He will hold that in. And the best way that he might solve that problem is by getting into sports, or hanging out with the guys and playing sports or golf or something like that. But their most likely choice might be to pursue a distraction. So when placed in an emotionally trying situation, men typically have fewer means, particularly through gender socialization, to express or deal with the resulting emotions, which allows for the potential of distraction. So the potential of distraction, if he's struggling with that lady, his partner, he might go back to an ex-partner. Sometimes it's only to talk about the situation, and then it possibly leads to a sexual situation. But because they are not taught to or permitted to cry, men often pursue distraction instead. Men are typically naive about relationship termination. They are not sure how to properly sort through their emotions. They do not handle relationship termination well, and are usually shocked, upset, and vulnerable after a breakup. This is kind of interesting, because men, if they are in a relationship with you and they're not cheating or anything like that, they just may be working hard, paying the bills, going to do a few things with their guys, things like that. When you break up with them, they are actually surprised, because in their minds, they're doing everything right. They're doing what is right, what a man should do as an adult. And here it is, you go and break up with them, right? when it comes to a cheating situation and you break up with them, they could still be surprised, because here it is, they say, I told you I'm sorry. Okay, isn't that enough? And they can still be surprised that you broke up with them, or shocked. However, I think what this basically means is that they have trouble sorting out that emotion that comes when you let go of a good man. He's not cheating. He might have a few mommy issues or whatever. He might overwork. He may be a workaholic or whatever, but he doesn't really drink other than just some, times that he goes to the bar. But he's an all-around good man, right? And here it is. You are mad that he won't buy you a new dress, or buy you a new purse, or buy you a new car, or something like that, and then you break up with him. And with that, I can sort of get why they will be shocked, upset, and vulnerable. And the vulnerability comes when they just can't quite make sense of it, and they pull at something as a coping mechanism to ignore or distract from those feelings at the moment. So as a solution, they will create distraction mechanisms to bypass negative emotions. So what they're feeling is that they don't want to bear, right, the negative emotion. It's a lot of things that they will bear. They will bear the weight of work, bear the weight of a job, bear the weight of a family responsibility, but those negative emotions, they just can't seem to quite understand why their emotions have to be negative. Women too believe that they are the fixers in the romantic relationships. If the problem does not get fixed, then it is not fixable. They equate solving house problems, cleaning, washing, ironing, as the equivalent to fixing a man. Women do not regard men as fixers and problem solvers, nor as possessing wisdom about how to fix and resolve. So this is a huge, huge problem for women. Huge. You will often hear women say to other women, girl, he was wearing some old plaid shirt and everything, and I told him to take it off. I mean, he need to start dressing like an adult, Or you would hear them say, girl, I got him trained. I had to tell him something. I had to do whatever I had to do because, he's in relationship with me now. And so we step into these roles, or we create the opportunity, or the belief system rather, to say that we need to mother them. They don't know how to take care of themselves, so we need to mother them. We sort of transition from what we should be doing in the home and projecting what we think needs to be done for the man. And men will back off quicker when you try to make them feel like a project. Another thing that women fail to understand is that men are actually truly fixers and problem solvers. That's what they do. They think rationally and logically about issues. They do not like to make emotional decisions because it messes with their ego. So you can yell and curse and throw things and get all loud and shake your neck and shake your and rest on one leg with your hands on your hip. They don't understand that. They don't read that. Honestly, they read it as you being disrespectful. However, I'm not going to get on that because I might get some people who don't really understand what I'm saying. But I've always said that if you want to yell and cuss and talk and cry or whatever, call your girlfriends for that. Call them, spend all day, beat that dead horse until you can't beat it anymore. But when you want the problem solved, however, then call your man. See, It's like the man, when you ask him to change the light bulb and he goes and gets his gear, he gets the uniform, he puts the uniform on, then he puts on the tool belt, then he gets the ladder, he positions it right just for safety, then he climbs the ladder and changes the light bulb. And you say to him, why do you have all of that gear on? You know, the uniform, the tool belt. It don't take all of that. But it actually does, because the man is coming from a viewpoint of systematic thinking, that when you change even a light bulb, you need to have on the right gear, the right dress, the right tools, the right ladder, right, to move you up. And so they're coming from it from a systematic understanding about how to fix and resolve problems. That's what they're doing. And they are adding wisdom and understanding and instruction on how to do it. The problem with us is that we get offended as women when they want to solve the problem, because we don't really want the problem solved. If we wanted the problem solved, we would have them to solve it. What we want is to be able to pull at it like a coping mechanism, pull it at will and talk about it and throw it back up in their faces. Whatever it is. A woman would say, if you sort of mock the man for putting on the gear to change the light bulb, and then he decided not to do it, you want to be able to pull at him a week later and say, well, I asked you to change the light bulb and you didn't do it, and I can't believe you did it. That's why you just can't depend on a man, right? That's not true. You mocked his systematic thinking. So women regard men as needing instruction and fixing, but they're sort of like out of order, because you've already basically asked him to do something, so he responded, and that is his response, his appropriate response. Compatibility. So a woman instructing a man does not work in a traditional romantic relationship and or marriage. Mating requires recognition of compatibility. People often get into relationships to confirm something about what they believe or to improve their self-esteem. They do not to get into relationships to discover that they are not worthy of an individual's time. So they're not in relationships to waste time. But compatibility is also sort of falls under multiple categories. You know, I said in one of the previous audios that if you're a person who can't keep a job, you are deliberate in not being stable, people are oftentimes not going to want to work with you. They're not going to want to stick with you because they assume or assess you as you wanting to be a deliberate loser. And it is hard for a winner to understand why you want to lose, why at least remain stable, at least keep a job, at least keep a place to live, at least upgrade your skills every now and then. But you don't want to do that. So compatibility, if you look at it from a spiritual standpoint, there's a scripture in the Bible that do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Now, in that regard, we're talking about the Christian marriage. Do not, as a Christian, be unequally yoked with someone who does not believe Christian ideals. And that's usually centered on Jesus as, the Son of God, being the way, the truth, and the life. So you would not ordinarily see a Christian marry with another person of a different religion. Don't get offended. That's just what it is, right? You oftentimes won't see a Muslim marry a Hindu or a Hindu marry a Buddhist. And so each religion has its own sort of ideals about who God is, who Jesus is, and so there may be compatibility issues. Compatibility issues may be in also visionary thinking. So sometimes if you are visionary, you have plans beyond just your current status, like you want to own a business, a large corporation, or found an organization. It's hard oftentimes to work with someone else who can't leave their job. And I'm not saying quit the job, but they're in a certain thinking that they like the safety of their job. And there is nothing wrong with being with wanting the stability and safety of being connected to a job. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to run an organization, there might come a time in maybe 5-10 years that you may have to come off that job and then run the organization full time. And so it's oftentimes kind of hard to work with people who cannot see beyond clocking in and clocking out. Compatibility also could be mood regulation, or how you handle conflict. If you get up and walk out all the time, it's hard to resolve issues because you don't know how to handle conflict. All you have seen in your life and all you have done for yourself is walk away. And there's a time that you actually need to walk away. Then there's a time that you cannot walk away, because if you continue to walk away and not resolve problems, that problem is still going to be at the end of your lifespan. It may be in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, and it's still going to have to be solved because it is part of your lifespan. So therefore, compatibility is an important concept to consider. So when we are talking about compatibility, in the psychology research, it is connected to perceived partner uniqueness. So a lot of times, if you want to know why someone might marry another person, it has a lot to do with that person's ability to fulfill relational needs. So PPU is the belief of a relational partner's ability to fulfill relational needs in ways that no other partner could. So you might hear people say oftentimes, why did you date that girl? Well, why are you with that girl? What is so different about her? Well, they hit it on the nail, right? The word different, that she is a lot different from all the other girls I've dated, or he is a lot different from all the other guys I have dated. And that's what sets one person apart from another. Now, PPU could also mean, and I talk on this in other audios, the fact that the person could be higher value than you, that even if you are a high value person, if another woman is even higher value, that her economic status is much higher than yours, and you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be a businesswoman who earns or generates revenue in the millions, but that man comes along. I mean, the man finds a woman with higher status. She could be a celebrity, she could be someone from a great family, etc., right? And they could leave you and go to that person. Okay. Relational needs includes companionship, intimacy, security, emotional involvement, and sex. So the sex part is kind of relative, because you can have a mate, a married partner at the house, or a long-term mate at the house, fulfill all relational needs. There is stability, there is some little uniqueness in the relationship, but basically that person fulfills relational needs. However, sometimes a mate will step out because another person, and a fair partner, offers sexual variety. And so men tend to get bored with sex, and so they need the sexual variety that comes with sustaining their attention. So you might have a person leave just because of sexual variety. Doesn't necessarily mean that they will stop being married to you. They like you at the house, but they have to step out here and there because this person puts on the special clothes, gives them a little licking on the backside. They do all types of things. when I in my book, I talk about how partners tend to porn the relationship. They will porn the relationship. Here it is, you getting into the relationship and you think you're gonna have this type of sex, have these types of needs met, and then all of a sudden they want you to become a porn star. And so the person, if you decide not to become a porn star, well, the person who does is considered a perceived partner unique. Right? It's strange. You could fulfill PPU yourself, but the other affair partner could also fulfill PPU for them as well. If a woman is able to fulfill these relational needs for a man, then there is a greater likelihood that he or she will remain romantically involved in the relationship and emotionally involved with the partner. It's like I said, it's still relative, it's still subjective, and it's still based upon those sexual variety needs that men need. Okay. So mating strategies and investment. However, when a woman negotiates her role in the relationship by fixing him and by default seeing him as a problem that needs to be fixed, then the relationship dynamic changes. So suppose you fulfill the PPU, the perceived partner uniqueness, and there are times you might sort of laugh with him when he changes the light bulb. But then if you get into a long, sustained strategy of trying to fix him, all you are going to end up doing is fixing him out of that house. He's going to end up leaving because his good enough is not good enough for you. Men look at relationships as investments. When an investment is not producing a return, they will consider other options. And the investment model is defined by 4 major components. So satisfaction, investment, quality of alternatives, and commitment. So satisfaction is related to relationship satisfaction. So are you fulfilling those relational needs, right? Investment are sort of time, resources, effort, care. Quality of alternatives comes along if you are not, fulfilling, relationship satisfaction, or you are rejecting his investment. So if he decides to step out, the alternative has to have some sort of quality, right? The affair partner. Usually men oftentimes don't always date down. Women tend to date down. And then commitment, of course, are you both committed in terms of investing in each other and the relationship itself? There is the quality of the relationship that the person has with the main partner. Then there is the quality of an alternative to the main relationship that may be perceived as attractive. So that person fulfills, that affair partner fulfills all relational needs. It produces a high return on their investment, and there is a strong level of relationship satisfaction and commitment. Then your partner might leave you for that person, and especially so because there might be sexual variety, and there might be the partner acting feminine and less masculine and aggressive. The need to fix that man is an aggressive stance, and men tend to sort of back step from that. If another person has a better PPU, men see this as an investment for which they can develop a psychological attachment. And a psychological attachment is what really keeps men as well. That it is likely that if a man is cheating on you, he hasn't developed a psychological attachment to you. Women think emotional, but men think psychological and logical. Therefore, the hastiness to fix too early in the relationship might be a determinant for why a man decided to go somewhere else. So as you think about and reflect on your past relationships, also reflect on your hastiness, because when we enter relationships before our time, we tend to push those relationships too fast, and we tend to get a lot of sort of defensive posture from the man or from the woman. All right, so hopefully you were able to gain insight from this video discussion. Please like, subscribe, and visit. So uh, please like the video, hit the notification bell for more discussions. I am re-uploading all of my audios, so I needed to make some changes to them. You can visit my website for more content at reginayfavors.com. If you want to send me an email, you can send an email reginayfavors@yahoo.com. Please also purchase the book. It's going to come out in spring 2021. So I had to make changes to my book to update it, and I also updated the title. So the original title was Bait, Hook, and Switch: Confessions of a Rebound Girl, and I have updated the title to Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships. So right now I'm still basically editing it, and I want to make it available in spring 2021. So thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I am Regina Y. Favors. Have a great day.